Greetings and welcome, I am Sugikhan and today I'm doing a review out of a bit older title that was released back in 2011 for PC, Mac, PS3 and Xbox 360, and this is known as Deus Ex Human Revolution. And the reason why I decided to do this review now is because from the fact that there's going to be a sequel released in the next few days known as Mankind Divided. And also, this game happens to be one of my favorite games of all time. So, Human Revolution essentially is made by Eidos Montréal and published by Square Enix. It's, pretty much a reboot to the very original Deus Ex series, Deus Ex game that was released back in 90s. And, it is pretty much, I would say, the grandfather or the godfather of this sort of a sci-fi shooter game or FPS RPG game. I don't think there was, before Deus Ex, there was a game that combined a lot of RPG elements with FPS elements. So it takes a place in a fictional world in 2027. And, you follow the main character who is known as Adam Jensen, who is an ex-SWAT officer, and he works as a security officer for this company known as Sarif Industries. You get to, move around these main hubs, and which is kind of like a very different from normal FPS games. Usually you have like levels and stages. But you get to like freem around in the streets of Detroit and also in China. So you have two different hubs in this game where you can explore. And, essentially you can do side quests, main quests. If people have played Witcher, I guess this would be the sci-fi equivalent of, Witcher. And of course, this game is not like hard-on sci-fi. It is, it's not steampunk. The word that people use is cyberpunk. And cyberpunk really pretty much means that people have augmentations, robot arms, have androids. And you pretty much have a lot of slums, and then you have a lot of people who live, in a very like... So practically, the income cap is different between these two. You have the rich people and you have poor people, and these are usually portrayed in a lot of cyberpunk novels as like very extremes on both sides. So you have people literally living on the slums, and then you have people who are really really rich, and then you usually have, like in Deus Ex, you have companies pretty much having more power than the actual government itself, and they have their own they hire pretty much like their own agents and own security guards and own protection and all that. So essentially that's kind of like the cyberpunk setting of people who don't know. And as an RPG element, as I talked to there are a lot of FPS elements, but there are also like certain angles where you have third-person shooters, so you can go behind walls and take cover, kind of like in Gears of War, and it's usually recommended to do that. Then you have, melee abilities where you can, pretty much knock out people, and you can use your swords to kill them as well. So essentially you can play the game either lethal or non-lethal. So essentially you can play with stun darts or, sleeping darts essentially through your whole game without killing anybody except the bosses. Or you can just, FPS your way, essentially killing everybody and massacring everybody. And there's a lot of NPCs. You can even kill civilians, you can kill cops and take their weapons, and there are a lot of those freedom type of elements. And in terms of like the RPG elements themselves, you're able to augment your augment your like body. So essentially you can see behind walls, you can activate stealth, you can use different types of abilities. And then you have like this whole hacking system inside the game, which essentially enables you to disable like cameras, turrets, robots, or even control them and turn them against the enemies. And there's a lot of cool things you can do. Stealth is still part of the game, but it still offers you, if you are a more impatient type of fellow, you can still play very like a dangerous type of play style where you just go guns blazing. And that's kind of the cool thing about the game. So I think in some ways it's kind of comparable to Splinter Cell, I guess. So you have definitely, the stealth and the offensive side, and you can choose equipment and buy equipment and upgrade your equipment. Like, for example, you can put a silencer in your pistol or machine gun. and then you can go undetected killing people and all that type of stuff. And one of the cool things about the game is essentially on the quests and on the side quests you can do a lot of decisions. So you can choose to, you know, give this guy to the cops or let him go and let him pay you money. And, you know, essentially every decision you will be making during the game, or almost every decision, will determine the outcome of the quest or essentially the end game of certain things. So if you don't do a thing X on, you know, early on the game, the one quest may not be available to you in the latter part of the game. So actually the decisions matter what you choose to do inside the game. And let's talk about the controls and graphics and all that. So, you know, even, you know, I played this just recently again. I mean, this is one of the only games that I pretty much played 3 times over. There's very few games that I actually played twice or thrice. So this game still has pretty okay graphics. You know, the content you will be seeing on the screen probably is not the very high-end graphics, but pretty much the max out. The game still looks pretty good after like 5 years on PC. On PS3 and Xbox 360 it looks a bit more blurry and all that. But, you know, I think the darker color theme and all that makes still look kind of decent type of a game to this day. And then, of course, the game is very like fluid on both mouse and keyboard. I actually always played it on Xbox 360 controller or PS3. I actually ended up playing pretty much like buying the game 3 times because there was this whole DLC added to the actual director's cut, which I'm reviewing. Director's cut edition is pretty much like 2 to 4 hours longer because it actually has this one really big quest line DLC included on it, and then one bonus mission. And the game offers a lot of replayability. You can play it 2 times or 3 times. You can go non-lethal, you can low lethal. And the game has also 4 different endings. But those endings actually don't matter to the Mankind Divided. So it's kind of like a combination of all the endings in the Mankind Divided. And, you know, as what comes to the story, you know, you are essentially this sort of a, you know, very similar in The Witcher. You know, you are this sort of a detective who is trying to figure out what is going on. You talk to people, and you kind of get to choose what kind of type of person Jensen is. Is he cruel? Is he sympathetic? Is he crazy, just killing everybody? Or, you know, just you kind of get to choose what type of a character he is based on the decisions you will be making throughout the game. Although these won't actually affect the endings as whole, so the endings are always going to be the same. You can choose literally, so it's not predetermined by your decisions which ending you will get. You can choose, and you can load and save, you know, if you want to see them all or just watch them on YouTube. One thing that I really have to praise is Michael McCann's soundtrack on this sort of a game. And, you know, the focus on this ambience and 3-layered compositions over character themes over melodies is really good. This is one of the best gaming soundtracks made on the 2000s. I don't think there's as like, you know, maybe the Ori and the Blind Forest, but as others, you know, I can't really name very many good soundtracks made in like the past 5 years in games as good as this. And I think there's definitely, you know, a lot of surreal elements. You can get really inside to the game throughout playing it on the first time, especially when you're covering out the truth, the conspiracies, the Illuminati, and all these secret organizations and private ops and, you know, this sort of a stuff. While it's not as in complex story as in something like Metal Gear, I think it's still a very relatively good story for a game that really offers you to do a lot of different decisions throughout the game. And, you know, I think definitely the game can offer you between 15 to 25 hours, depending on how fast you're playing the game and which difficulty you will be checking out or playing New Game Plus, etc. And there are different play styles. Some are faster, some are slower. And if you want to do everything, like do all the unlocks, and, you know, there are a lot of secret rooms and a lot of collectibles on the game. So there's definitely always something to find on each playthrough. And even on my 3rd playthrough, I don't think I absolutely found everything on every map. And just to kind of summarize my thoughts about the game, you know, it is one of the best FPS games. It's one of the best RPG games. I mean, there are a lot of cool RPG elements into it, upgrading our weapons, upgrading your suit, and you know, all these side quests, and you know, it's a very, very wonderful game, and you know, it was the game of the year for 2011, I think so. And there's no doubt that it's gonna be a pretty, then there's no doubt that the Mankind Divided will be probably as good as Human Revolution. But I do want to say this: based on the trailer and the footage that I've seen, Mankind Divided seems to be more mobile. Jensen seems to be much able to be jumping and flying around and doing more this sort of a, like, action-oriented attacks, which are a bit more mobile. And I mean, I'm not saying Deus Ex Human Revolution is non-mobile. It's just more that it seems to be a much more classical FPS. So you are having certain restrictions like sprinting speed and all that type of stuff. But you can adjust those through augmentations. Anyhow, the game can be literally picked up for $6 or so from G2A or another key reseller site. So definitely, I really recommend buying it out and playing it before Mankind Divided, because it does offer a lot of character development, a lot of background to Jensen's story, what kind of person he is after being betrayed by so many people and lied to, and all that type of a sizzle. Stay tuned for Mankind Divided videos, and I probably will be doing a review out of The Fall, which is this sort of iOS PC port of the game, which is kind of prequel to Human Revolution. But anyhow, if you really like this sort of reviews and games, I definitely recommend you to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys soon. Cheers.
Me. Rules would only slow me down.
Very dirty Harry of you, Jensen. But we still have to be careful how we handle